La saison 2014 pour la recherche des navires de John Franklin a pu compter sur plusieurs plateformes de recherche. Le brise-glace de la garde côtière Sir Wilfrid Laurier, le HMS Kingston de la Marine royale du Canada, le Martin Bergmann de la Fondation pour la recherche dans l'Arctique et le One Ocean Voyager de One Ocean Expedition. Depuis 2008, les recherches s'inspirent des témoignages inuits d'hier et d'aujourd'hui. La découverte sur une île d'une ferrure de bossoir provenant du navire a donné un indice qui a mené à l'emplacement de l'épave.
So each day of the survey, the Parks Canada research vessel investigator would be carefully lowered from the well deck of the Coast Guard ship Sir Wilfrid Laurier. From there, we would motor out to conduct a full day of survey with towed side-scan sonar, starting at about 7 o'clock in the morning and continuing until 8 o'clock in the evening when we'd come back to the ship to refuel and start preparing for the next day.
Donc, la journée se déroule comme ça, où on a une image sonore qui défile devant un écran. Les premières images qui sont parvenues, en fait, dans ce cas ici, ça a été vraiment une image complète de l'épave. Elle est apparue d'un coup, il n'y avait absolument aucun doute à savoir que c'était une épave. Et grâce aux dimensions qu'on pouvait prendre à partir de cette image, que c'était une des épaves de Franklin.
Well, we're looking at the first sonar contact that we've imaged since starting surveying here in 2008. We surveyed one line in this new interesting survey area. So this is the second line in this new area, and we had just started southbound on the second line. It passed right over top of this wreck structure, which just on. I think we could tell exactly what it was in a few seconds. It's definitely a shipwreck, and we're going to learn a lot more about it.
So that was about, 5-10 minutes ago?
I would say so.
What was the reaction like? Scientific detachment or?
I would like it to winning the Stanley Cup.
A few days later, we were able to return once again to the newly discovered site, this time with our remotely operated vehicle with a high-definition video camera system. We were able to make a somewhat brief 40-minute dive on the site where we were able to get the first visuals on the wreck. In that time, we saw a number of features which clearly reinforced the fact that this was one of Franklin's ships. We've, of course, found 2 cannon off the stern. Off the port stern quarter of the wreck, we could also see a number of detached deadeyes. A storm had been blowing for a few days prior to the ROV dive, and that had served to churn up the sea. So it wasn't very easy to see, and so we reluctantly had to recover the vehicle and start planning for a return visit with our diving equipment.
De retour à Ottawa, la découverte de l'un des 2 navires de l'expédition Franklin a pu enfin être annoncée aux Canadiens et Canadiennes. Immédiatement après cette annonce, nous sommes retournés rejoindre le Sir Wilfrid Laurier afin de pouvoir effectuer les premières plongées sur l'épave. Le temps était compté, c'était vraiment une course contre la montre. Mais nous avons eu, sur une possibilité de 5 jours, 2 journées où les conditions nous permettaient de plonger. Et notre objectif était d'accumuler le plus d'informations possible, soit pour identifier le navire, mais surtout pour préparer les prochaines étapes.
And certainly it was probably the most remarkable dive I can ever recall in my career. The wreck site would loom 5 or 6 meters overhead. That's almost 2 stories tall, standing proud of the seafloor. And we were struck just by the incredible preservation of the ship's structures and artifacts on site, really speaking to the final moments of the ill-fated 1845 Franklin expedition. For example, these beautiful copper bilge pumps on either side of the mainmast. We can actually see examples of these on the ship's plans. We were struck by the beautiful green color on the 2 cannon that are found astern of the vessel. We came across at least 6 anchors on the site. The ships destined for polar exploration were outfitted with as many as 10 anchors, and it seems that a number of them survive in place. We can actually see both an inner stern post and an outer or end post. Between the 2 is where the propeller would have been situated.
Where to dive?
That's the best dive of my entire life.
It's going to take a lot to beat that one.
You couldn't ask for more on this wreck site. It's astounding how much is there. Pump heads, the large top of the Massey pump.
Terry's
flying there.
Bananas with those pumps. And ship's bell. The bell has a broad arrow on it too.
Donc, c'est vraiment une plongée magique dans laquelle on voit non seulement le navire, mais tout l'équipement et tous les appareils. Tout ça fait en sorte que c'est une plongée qui est vraiment magique, mais aussi qui nous laisse entrevoir les formidables possibilités pour nous d'apprendre sur cette expédition et vraiment de percer le mystère. Qu'est-ce qui est arrivé à l'équipage de cette épave d'un des navires de Franklin?